because 1% of that is just commodities. So we just dig it from the ground and send it out. And so we must be able to innovate. We must be able to go up the value chain in ideas and in new products, service products, knowledge products that can allow us to become real and substantive members of a global community who is willing then to buy our knowledge and buy our services, because we have developed and designed new and innovative models of doing different things. If we look around us on the continent, there are so many different processes that can be improved, can be innovated upon. And I think there is the challenge of our continent is, what do we need to be able to move upwards from an essentially extractive economy into one that produces more ideas, that uses technology better, and that is able to ensure that we form collaborative platforms that do this. Just before coming on live with you, I was talking with Becky about this new platform called Floor, and talking about the different things that happen and what can be done. I would be very, very happy if we could have some Africans, one of you may be listening to us today, design a platform that we can all start using and be proud because the ideas and the innovative capacity came from the continent. We need to see more of that. However, we also, and that is part of what we're doing at the Economic Commission for Africa, is working to protect our intellectual property rights, because you have no interest in being innovative if you cannot gain from the value of that innovation. Today, a lot of the patents that are registered, even on the continent, are registered by non-residents on the continent. So I give you a sense of a little bit the numbers on sort of total patents that are granted to residents in 2017 was on the continent 1,330 compared to 592,000 in Asia. So 1,330 patents, which means new ideas that we want to register on the continent, compared to 592,000 in Asia. We need to do more, we need to do better, but our institutions need to be ready to receive these ideas and receive these patents. That's why at the Economic Commission for Africa, working with AfriLabs and other agencies, the African Union, the African Development Bank, we're trying to see whether we can change the models of registering patents, valuing our knowledge and our innovations, to see whether there's different methods and different ways of doing that. We hope that as we do this work, we can count on you to give us ideas, give us suggestions about what it is that you need, in addition, of course, to financing, because another strong and big constraint for innovation is the need for financing. I think a lot of the work that we're doing is to see how we can stand up venture capital, social capital, to see whether that can come behind you and support you as you do this innovation. We're launching competitions, we're launching platforms, we're launching open spaces where these conversations can happen and where we can pick some of the innovations and scale them. I always say that we talk a lot about M-Pesa, and the whole world knows about M-Pesa, but only Kenya uses M-Pesa, and that is the problem for Africa. We must use the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement so that success stories like M-Pesa go across the continent and do not remain the jewel of one part of the continent and even one country on the continent. We need to find ways of ensuring that we can actually spread these platforms. The reason why Facebook, Twitter, TikTok do well is because they become global. What is it that is stopping Africa from ensuring that we have this kind of, first of all, continental momentum? Why is South Africa, why is Angola, why is Egypt not using M-Pesa as a platform? And the same is true for other platforms that we create. And I think that, again, is where the Economic Commission for Africa wants to come together with you to socialize this new and innovative ideas so that we can ensure that everybody's using them, everybody's taking advantage of them, and therefore we can actually begin to create more value. Africa today needs 13 million jobs. After post-COVID, we'll probably need a lot more. Creation of value, creation of new ideas, small and medium enterprises are going to be the solution for how Africa gets out of this crisis. And until and unless we find a way of scaling up ideas, scaling up demand, we will remain small islands of excellence that are not able to really benefit the continent. So I think part of the conversation that you must be having today and yesterday, I hope, is about how we can take some of the good ideas and scale them up, share them across the continent so that we do better with 4 ideas as opposed to 50 ideas that remain in small geographies and which do not scale up. Now, the big challenge, I think for our decade is going to be, how do we get all the kids that are out of school today? We have over 330 million kids out of school today back into schools. We know we are not most likely going to get them into sort of the physical school buildings. And even if we do, we need social distance. Our governments don't have enough resources to ensure that those distances are respected. What is the role of startups like yourself, innovative platforms like yourself, energized youth like yourselves, in sort of helping us find solutions for designing a different kind of education system for Africa? We are going to need that to be able to absorb the kinds of inequalities that may result if we are not able to send all of Africa's girls and boys back to school on time. We cannot afford a lost decade for Africa's kids. In many of our countries, we already have conflict and there's already kids out of school. We need to find ways of making sure that we can get to those kids with the education that they need to be able to get out of a crisis. The problem with those kids is that they get a double whammy. First, they can't go to school because of COVID, but secondly, they fall back. So when they finally get back to school, they're already far behind, and we need to do a lot more on that. And again, ideas for innovation will be very useful, and we hope that at the end of these meetings that you have, you can come up with a few things that we can take as the Economic Commission for Africa. We have a big platform. Of course, we have an important platform that can help to socialize the ideas, maybe finance the ideas, and even test the ideas. So I'm looking to you, Becky, and your team to, at the end of this process, come to us with, these are some ideas. Why can't we take them forward? What can we do to ensure that, an idea that was born at this very important 20th anniversary of the AfriLabs meeting, 2020 AfriLabs meeting, goes forward? Because that's the other thing on the continent is, yes, we know our solutions, but we don't usually do very well in terms of implementation. And I think once you have a successful design, once we have the innovations, we need then to ensure that we can actually move towards implementation. We are here as a global community, the UN community, to ensure we're launching the Decade of Action. We want new ideas. We want to see where we can do implementation of some of these ideas. And we look forward to working with you to see how we can do that. Now, I'm known to have said very often, and I continue to say, it's very difficult on the continent to talk about a digital age, to talk about a resilient and innovative Africa if we do not solve three things. And those three things are the cost of access to technology, the capacity of our broadband, and the policy and reform area in which we ensure that we can implement digital solutions in terms of transparency, in terms of protection of personal data. And so there is a lot more work that also needs to be done with our policymakers to ensure, one, that prices are affordable. Today, only 17.8% of the African population actually does have access to the internet and can use it. So everything that I've been saying is 17.8% of the population. We need to take that number much higher. Maybe that's why M-Pesa is not as vulgarized as it should be. And so for that, we also need your help. We need your efforts to be able to advocate with our leaders about how we can ensure that we increase the broadband capacity, we reduce the cost so that it's affordable to many, many more people, and that will create the leverage and the size and the market that we need to be able to take your ideas and your innovation to scale. So one of the things that we would really like to do is join hands with you to ensure that we can talk to our policy makers. We already have a few that are listening and are working with us. And I think that the more leaders we can get listening to this message of ensuring that broadband is cheaper, capacity is better, that it's fast. There is no point being innovative if you have to spend 5 minutes waiting for your Google to open up. That doesn't work. There's a number of digital tech giants that are coming onto the continent today: Google, Intel, IBM, Samsung, Nokia, you name them. They're all coming onto the continent because they see value. They expect that there will be value on the continent, but we need to ensure that that value from the continent is protected, and that our leaders, as they work to create policy reforms, also are able to create spaces where our startups, our incubators, and their ideas can be protected while we work into the future. There's a lot of conversation around e-commerce and regulation around the e-commerce space. We would need for you to tell us what needs to be done better. I think we're learning a lot already from what is happening in places like Kenya, Tunisia, where there's been a lot of discussion around what is the ideal startup legislation, and we're using that for other countries. We hope that with you, we can also continue to see, we don't know everything that's happening across the continent. Hopefully with this gatherings, 500 strong of you and more, we can get a little bit more information on what is happening. We need to use more e-commerce channels. Again, we're not using them enough because only 17.8% of us have access to the internet. We need to double that number. Maybe this is one of the things that AfriLabs should take on and see what is it, where are the countries, where are the low-hanging fruits, countries where we can maybe double internet usage. It is important, particularly for women. I think as we see in this time of COVID, women have already, we're home, most of them, but are back home doing a lot of the work that needs to be done, but also needs to continue economic activity. And we see that clearly all the evidence that is coming out is that those that are doing better, the small and medium enterprises that are doing better, are those that were connected to the internet, so they have not lost their clients. So I think there is a whole space there of how can we ensure that more of our women businesses are connected to the internet or connected to some platforms that ensure that they can continue to create value, to ensure, as we know, you educate a woman, you educate a society, that their girl child doesn't stay away from school because they've lost their only way of earning an income. So this is an important component, I think, of the work that you do. There is a value creation piece, and there is also a social empowerment piece, particularly for women, which I want to leave you with as we have this conversation around creating a resilient Africa. If we create an Africa with resilient women, we clearly create a resilient Africa, and that, I think, is an important part of the conversation. One of the things that the Economic Commission for Africa has done in terms of trying to create a resilient Africa is we have gotten into a partnership with 7 of the largest telecom companies on the continent and launched an initiative called the African Communication and Informations Platform, which essentially is a way of trying to provide two-way data, getting data from those who are now today vulnerable because of COVID, and ensuring that they get the kinds of services that they need. But one of the things that we learned as we were trying to do that is that's where we got the 7.8 number, where we have on this database about 714 million cell phone numbers, but only about 158 are actually connected to an internet system. So again, part of the work that we're going to start trying to do is see how we can then migrate those who are on basic mobile systems forward. But there is a lot more that needs to be done. And again, as I said, we hope and we believe that the resilient Africa will begin to demonstrate itself with your new ideas and with creating value. So the things that we can export out of the continent in terms of ideas, in terms of innovation, increase, and our net current account balances improve overall as we have this conversation. We have 10 years to go to Agenda 2030. We need, by the time we get to 2030, to have an Africa that is totally connected, to ensure that every girl child on the continent has access to technology, that our research and development is strong, that many more girls are in science, technology, and innovation, and that our SMEs, our women SMEs, are also 50% in the space of innovation, financial services, and areas where there is much more value that is created. We hope as the Economic Commission for Africa to continue to showcase innovations, collective approaches, collective platforms like the AfriLabs platform, to be able to build a community on the continent that is strong and remains resilient throughout this crisis. So in conclusion, once again, I want to say that you have a very powerful platform. I think there is a lot that the world is expecting from Africa. These are the kinds of platforms that can deliver those results for us. I know that last year, somebody from a group from the AfriLabs system won, I think it was the French President Macron Prize and a prize in the United States. We don't want one, we don't want two. We want you inside the AfriLabs system to be able to produce 10, 20 innovations. We will take it upon ourselves to work to ensure that we can get the financing and that we can be able to advocate for your new innovations across the continent so you get the scale you need to succeed. Once again, thank you very much for inviting me to join your conversations today, and look forward to continuing these conversations as we go forward. Thank you again very much. And
thank you. you, Dr. Songwe, on behalf of the entire AfriLabs community. We do thank you so much for your partnership and your commitment to supporting the digital ecosystem on the continent, not only in your capacity as the ECA Executive Secretary, but in a personal capacity as well. We're so grateful and we're so blessed to have you in that position and have your support. Thank you so much again for joining us, and yeah, have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you, and good luck with the rest of your conversations. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Be safe.
Thank you. Same to you.